And are you refreshed? Good. Now what?
I loved what you always say, and what you've been talking about today about the vortex and focusing on what you want and how to do that. I am actually wondering about kind of the converse, which is prevention. I'm a doctor, and I have been tiptoeing around clinical medicine because I don't want to get in and get sick, make people sicker, be part of that. So I've kind of committed my life right now to medical education. Love that. And I'd like to know how best I could be more effective or most effective, which you may not have an answer because I know I can feel my way that way. It's the fun of it. But B, the opposite side of that same coin, which is how do you live in it, wellness, health, promotion, education, without picking up the opposite side of the stick and getting sick. So many doctors get cancer and diseases, and the one thing they're specializing in is the thing they catches up with them later in life. I think it's because they're sitting in it all day. So
well, you're right.
Question.
You're right, because what you push against is active in your vibration, and law of attraction just yields back to you whatever is active in your vibration. So is your question, how can I participate, how can I be helpful in medicine without getting sick? Or is your question, how can I be helpful in medicine?
I love it. I want it all. Really. I think of the broader community a lot, and I feel that my work is more impactful than one-on-one.
Well, you see, you can't be helpful in medicine and get sick.
Really?
If you know what you need to know in order to be helpful, knowing what you know in order to be helpful will keep you from getting sick. You have to believe more in wellness than in sickness, and that's the thing that's screwy with medicine. They've been so busy looking for what's out of balance, even though the physical body is more in balance than anything else. You could take a very sick person, and here's another way of saying it, and then we'll bring it right to this. We've been saying for a while that if your news reports were giving you a fair balance of the well-being that is actually happening around your planet in comparison with the not well-being, that your news broadcast would go across the screen.
Right.
And people would say, what was that? And you could say, that was all the bad news that happened all around the world today. Instead of a 24-hour news cycle where they just keep feeding it to you. And the same thing is true of illness in relationship to wellness. The illness is and the wellness is all of the rest of it, you see. So if you were wanting to be of value to a person or to a entire population of the world, which is your broader perspective that you're reaching for, but let's just talk about one person at a time. If you could visit with one person and you could accurately depict for them the perfectly performing functions of their body in relationship to what's out of balance, you would bring them into the vortex where well-being could then resume for them. We were visiting with a healthcare provider one day, saying something sort of like that, and she said, "Oh, Abraham, I'm not allowed to give false hope."
Right.
And what she was actually saying is, the reality as it stands and the tests that are before me are what I must talk about. And we say, you can't talk about the reality that exists and do anything other than perpetuate more of the reality that exists. You have to bring medicine into the vibrational reality. So how do you do that? Well, as a physician, we would start talking more about the vibration of a being and less about the blood. We would talk more about the vibration of the being and less about the cells. However, let's talk about the cells for a moment. So we began earlier today talking about this a little bit as we were playing with our friend who is worried about the beasts of your planet sometimes not being properly cared for. And we were teasing about how most of you are sort of hard on your own selves, in that you confine them within your own skin and give them so little freedom. But during that conversation, we were talking about how the cells of your body are communicating with the vibrational counterpart. In other words, every consciousness is an extension of non-physical energy. And the cells of your body are extensions of non-physical energy. Now, when we started this conversation, we were talking about chickens or something like that. And we were talking about how, unlike humans, the chicken isn't always trying to define its relationship with other chickens. Seriously, it is defining because it is a beast and because it is more non-physically focused than humans are. It is always reaching for alignment with source. And that is the reason that an animal, now the more domesticated they become, the more they begin to act like you. But the animals are reaching for alignment with the non-physical counterpart and finding it, and therefore doing a better job of thriving than humans are, who are reaching for their alignment with other humans. So you're following this clearly?
Oh, yes.
So now envision the cells of a human body and understand that those cells are individual consciousness who have individual inner cells or inner being cells. And the cells are always reaching to communicate with that non-physical counterpart. Now, what pain is in a physical body? Pain is cell having an experience, and let's say out of balance experience. So the cells having an out of balance experience and asking for balance. The non-physical vibrational cell finds that balance immediately. And if this cell can't come into balance, then there will be a physical sensation that indicates that imbalance. That's what pain is. Pain is the cell having reached to a more defined place, but the physical aspect not keeping up with it. Now stay with us just a little bit, because what we're saying to you is that the attitude of your patient is the only thing that gets in the way of that cellular communication. So you can see how a cancer would spread, or how a disease would spread, because a cell gets out of whack, tries to find balance, but there's so much confusion or so much anger or so much frustration, so much misalignment in the thinking pattern of the human body that it causes a disallowance of that vibrational communication, which is exactly what all sickness is. So if you could, we talked about this earlier, if you could convey to your patient, I am a physical doctor, and most physical doctors treat physical bodies, and I do. I'm good at it. But I know something about you and your physical body that goes beyond the physical what-isness. The more I look into the physical dynamics of your physical body, the more I've come to know that you and me, all of us, are more vibrational beings than we are physical. And there is a tuning that we can do, and in fact that we must do, and in fact that all well people are doing, whether they know it or not, that I'm going to assist you with. I have lots of medical tools. I understand your body. I went to school for a long time and I learned about it. But I also know that without your cooperation, I cannot address the cellular structure of your body, because when we're talking about the cellular structure, medicine is like medicine with a chainsaw. You and I are going to do a cellular revisiting. I'm going to show you how you can begin to allow your cells to do the work that they were born to do. So I'm going to treat your symptoms. I'm good at that. And I'm going to bring you into as much comfort as I physically can. I was born to do that too. But the most important dynamic of our relationship, physician to patient, is me convincing you of the vibrational aspect of your being and reminding you of the importance of the way you feel. I'm going to show you how your attitude, your mood, affects what's happening in your body. And together, we are going to find improvement, steady improvement. It is my promise to you. I am a physician who never gives false hope. I speak only of what I know, and these things I know. And then you may say the same thing that the greatest healer that you talk about in the Western Hemisphere said, go forth and tell no one. In other words, this is a conversation that we're having. In other words, you don't need them to upset their apple cart. In other words, just convey to them the power of your knowing. And of course, you will find perfect words, even more perfect words than the words that we spoke. But it's pleasing to us to feel you hear and know what we said. You know that.
I do. Thank you.